Let's see if we can get this seat to fit. The 73 H1 is a 1-year only seat, or at least the hardware is, and it's very hard to find a seat pan. I bought a pre-made cafe seat, didn't like it, found this one on eBay, and I like the shape quite a bit. It is a little bit narrower than I would like it to be, but I think if we bend these flares out on the side just a hair, it won't look bad. So I also have something I did on this H1 is put a modern seat release on it. So I'm pretty sure this is off of a GSXR, and I really like the seat latch mechanism. So it's just a pull to release, and this whole thing comes apart. So the plan is to weld or bolt this portion onto the seat frame, and then we'll have to make a bracket to bolt this onto the motorcycle frame. With that extra metal removed, we can kind of get a look at what it's going to be like. And you can see just a little bit of the frame poking out, and then it kind of gets sucked back in, and then this is a little wide. So we'll continue to kind of form the sheet metal to get that where we like it. But overall, that's not bad. I'm liking the way that's looking. And then we'll obviously smooth that out. But I think on my other one, I cut the frame off right here, or maybe a little further, and then plugged that. I'm a little nervous to cut this bar out without putting an additional support here. Not entirely sure that's going to be necessary, but these frames are already known for being a little flexible and not the most rigid, so definitely want to put some support back here, whether it's maybe it's even a flat plate right here for the battery, and maybe I get rid of this battery tray and put a battery horizontally. But I think that's a later problem. Let's focus right now on getting the height right. So this is going to be sitting probably on some rubber, and I'm actually wondering if I don't come back in here and I don't want to do that. It's getting too complicated, but it'll just sit up just a little bit off of here. Oh, actually, maybe that's a good spot to mark for cutting the frame. Goes up there. We don't want it, and I could even maybe follow that line. Would that look okay? I guess we'll see. But yeah, first thing, I need to figure out how to mount this, which means I need to figure out how to mount my seat release and the bracket to the bottom of the seat. So, what's next? I'm going to take a moment off camera to figure that out. Ground down all the welds and everything up in the front area so we can work from a clean frame, and I remembered that can't really mount, I could mount the battery up here, but I can't get rid of this area unless I also figure out a new oil tank, because the oil tank mounts here. So I think just to keep things simple, I'll keep the factory battery mount and the CDI ignition boxes here. The oil tank will go here, and then I'll go with my original plan of reusing the factory covers. I do like the idea though of putting some plate here to add some additional rigidity. I went and looked at my other bike, and essentially I have another rod right here, about right here. But anyway, I think that this plate will do a number of things. It'll help stiffen things and also maybe keep things clean. So then the next thing that I want to do is I also want to put a piece of plate up here for the seat release. So I'm going to do a little cardboard cutout. And mock this up so that when I go and rough cut my piece of plate, it'll fit nicely, and I'll cut it a little oversized, but right now I just want to get kind of a large piece that'll fit, and then I'll trim to the width or the size I need. This guy's going to mount this lower portion is going to mount here, and then the height will be determined by where I want the seat, so I'll have to play with the height of this plate that I'm going to put in. But then essentially that'll just be somewhat flush with the frame probably, and then when that comes down, snaps in place, and the seat will be retained with this, but it'll just be resting on top of the frame with some rubber. So I'm pretty happy with those cardboard pieces. I'll probably, like I said, just cut off right here. That one I'm happy with the size for. And then, yeah, I have some scrap metal at work that I'll cut pieces of plate out, and we'll do some welding. I grabbed some 12 gauge from the scrap bin at work, and got them kind of sitting in there, but that's the plan. And we'll get them kind of fit to size, tack them in place, and go from there. Well, I was just going to tack it because I'm not a very good welder, but decided to just go all the way. I'm not going to zoom in or anything because the welds are terrible, but it'll hold and it'll be covered up. Cut about 5 inches off the rear. That lines up with the little notch here, and then just a little spacer to kind of give me an idea. This is, I don't know, 3/4 inch, 1 inch foam. Put that down like that. I'm gonna use the tank to hold it in place. And then there we go. Yeah, you can see in the right there, definitely some gap between the seat and the frame, so it's not perfect. Don't know what I'm going to do about that, if anything. But, yeah, it's not exactly what I wanted, but not terrible. I like it. Ooh, I know one more thing. Look at this gem. I don't know who decided chrome was a good idea, but yeah, that's a good way to look at myself. I look pretty. Whew. That looks horrendous. Second thoughts on using the original side covers now. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for today. I do need to figure out where to mount the license plate. Not my plate. Don't even remember what that came off of. And that is not even a nice line. Would it look okay up there? I don't know. It pretty well ruins the flow, but maybe if I can get one of those tail lights. Oh, there you go. If it's at an angle, it's not terrible. I don't know. All right, that's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. I want to thank my Patreon supporters, starting with Bailey. Wait a minute, I don't have Patreon, but I did find some missing footage of the clutch install. I got everything cleaned up, and all the clutch parts have been soaking in oil. We'll go ahead and get those pulled out, create a mess, and we'll start getting things put back together. Oops. How's this line up? Yeah, just. You know what I did chase all of these threads, external and internal, with a tap and die, just to be safe. It's all bolted up, and of course, I forgot the little pressure plate guy. So I'll get it unbolted and do that again. Technique I like for applying gasket sealer. Just get a dab on your finger and kind of go around, and then you come back and just tap it, and whatever sticks to the surface is what you want. Just real thin coating. Basically enough to kind of hold the paper gasket in place, but not enough to, ooze out all over. And I usually only do this on one side, so that when you go to remove it, it's not stuck and ripped in half. All over the place. So like I said, real thin coating, just whatever sticks. And then I take my gasket, line it up. Get all the holes lined up. And sometimes I'll even take a couple of bolts and set them in there so that it doesn't slide around. After I got the clutch fully installed, it was engaged even without the lever pulled in, so I had to adjust this screw out so that it wasn't engaged. I was at the limit of the cable being fully adjusted out, so I got that to where there's just a little bit of play before you actually start disengaging the clutch. So cover's back on. One thing I noted is Most clutch plates I've dealt with have these separations straight out. On the kit I got, they were more spiraled, and I'm not entirely sure which direction they go. But I pulled them all back out and put them all facing the same direction. I Googled it and couldn't really find anything definitive. So hopefully it's right. And then I've got the oil pump, the one that came out of it here. And then I have a spare that between the two of them, hoping that at least one works. And I'll get that cleaned up and put back together. Get that installed. And I pulled the chain off, so I'll get it fired up and just run through the gears without the chain on it and see how it feels.